This video is brought to you by pinesandmaples.ca, where you can find all sorts of great Canadian products made by Canadian creators. Enjoy!
Kane and his companions spent 2 days at Fort Assiniboine, doing little more than sleep before the fire and eat fish. On December 2nd, they left for Fort Edmonton and proceeded down a trail through the forest. They shot and killed many rabbits that crossed their path, and saw many more suspended from Indian snares on the side of the trail. The travelers arrived at Fort Edmonton on December 5th. The fort's factor, John Edward Harriot, gave Kane a room to himself, which the painter decided to make his headquarters for the winter. He spent the season sketching the Cree, Assiniboine, Sarcee, Gros Ventre, and Blackfoot Indians, who came to the fort to sell dried buffalo meat and fat. The Indian and Métis women of the fort processed these ingredients into huge quantities of pemmican, which was later distributed to other HBC forts. That winter, Kane accompanied Mr. Harriot and other HBC officers on a buffalo hunt. Upon returning from the successful venture, they found an enormous buffalo bull blocking their path. Mr. Harriot fired his musket at the animal, prompting it to charge at him in a rage. The hunters spent the next few minutes desperately evading the bull's fury, firing musket ball after musket ball into its tough hide. At last, Kane wrote, after receiving 16 bullets in its body, he slowly fell, dying harder than I had ever seen an animal die before. Another event which Kane described in his diary was the frontier-style feast hosted in the Fort Edmonton's colourful dining hall on Christmas Eve. The feast was followed by a dance which lasted until midnight, attended by English traders, French-Canadian voyageurs, Métis men and women, and Indians of various nations who were all laughing and jabbering in as many different languages as there were styles of dress. On one occasion during his stay in Edmonton, Kane accompanied the fort's sole horsekeeper, an old Métis warrior named Francois Lucy, on a buffalo hunt, during which Lucy showed Kane an old Indian hunting trick called making a calf. After finding a buffalo herd, Lucy dressed himself in a buffalo robe while Kane put on a wolf skin. Lucy crouched in the snow, crawled around, and bellowed like a buffalo calf. When the Métis caught the attention of the herd, Kane tackled him, whereupon Lucy bellowed more earnestly. Apparently convinced that one of their young ones was being attacked by a prairie wolf, the herd rushed to Lucy's assistance. When the buffalo were within musket range, the hunters stood up and fired at them, killing 2 cows and causing the rest to flee. On January 6, 1848, Paul Kane left Fort Edmonton with 9 men and a newly married couple bound for the Fort Pitt. The party travelled by dog sled down the frozen North Saskatchewan River, subsisting on buffalo they shot along the way. In an effort to save time, they took a cross-country shortcut, during which they encountered and visited with a friendly band of Cree Indians. The company arrived at Fort Pitt after 7 days of travelling, having had several small adventures along the way. There, Kane fell in with a band of Cree Indians, whose head chief was preparing to make war on the Blackfoot. In an effort to induce his braves to accompany him on the warpath, the chief performed a pipe stem ceremony in which certain pipe stems, considered sacred by the Cree, were taken out of their bundles and carried in procession to each teepee in the camp. At the door of each lodge, the chief, with tears streaming down his face, implored its male inhabitants to join him in his crusade for the sake of their friends, relatives, and ancestors who had been killed by the Blackfoot. After the ceremony, the chief allowed Kane to make a sketch of the artifact, but never left the artist alone with it, believing that if it fell to the ground, terrible things would happen to him and his tribe.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our website, pinesandmaples.ca. where you can find all sorts of great Canadian products.